On this team, we fight for that itch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that itch.
Coming in at 320 kilobytes per second. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for MattieC Sports for you and me.
When it comes to getting dough and chasing dollars.
All right, everybody. This is MattieC Sports for you and me. I have a very special guest, Chanda Gunn. I hope I said it right?
Absolutely, you did.
You got it right this time. Okay.
Yeah.
This woman here is a former U.S. Olympian in the 2008 Olympics in Turin and went to Northeastern University. She's a Husky. So I won't say anything about that because I like another college in Massachusetts. So
you can like more than one.
That is true. That is true. This woman is a director of programs and services for the Epilepsy Foundation of New England. And I'm sure you're part of other things. And just wanted to quickly go about your hockey career. So you were diagnosed about at the age of 9. So how did that affect your hockey career, and how did it get you determined to go where you were?
Well, I didn't actually even get diagnosed with epilepsy until I was 13.
Oh,
so
okay.
So at the age of, oh no, you're right. I didn't start playing. I'm sorry. I didn't start playing hockey until the age of 13. So I was diagnosed at the age of 9, and I think that I was not allowed to play sports at that time because of my seizures. And then I think my neurologist, the story goes, and I don't have much memory to be honest of this, the story goes that my neurologist said, well, hockey, I think almost as a joke, I would be allowed to play because advocate for wearing a helmet, protection. I was living in Southern California at the time, so it wasn't a sport that everybody would just go and sign up for your local hockey team. And then I was living near a family that was, hockey players. And so I ended up a goalie pretty shortly thereafter. Everybody always needs a goalie, right?
Yeah. Good luck with that. I couldn't be a goalie. I was a defenseman or a wing. So more power to you taking those pucks. And what was it like in Turin in the Olympics, and actually even playing in Northeastern, big school?
I don't know. Those are like two really big questions. What was it like playing in the Olympics? There's so much that I'm learning now about what it meant to be an Olympian that I didn't know at the time. I think at the time, there were some things that I experienced, some memories that I took with me that were impactful and meaningful to me. But when you go there, you work so hard to achieve a goal. And so it's almost like every other day. They train you so that it's every other day. They train you so that you're so prepared that nothing isn't a surprise. And so it's just a hockey tournament. You're going and you're playing another tournament. And so that's really what it was like. And then there are some experiences that I can look back upon and some stories, I've got a million just funny, and I look back upon it and say, wow, that's really like not a story that everybody has, or that's not an experience. Or even today, a lot of times at work, or even in my, epilepsy journey, I think I'm able to do these things, or something is a struggle for me because I was an athlete and because I have this work ethic that I'm learning is less typical. And I think some of it is probably innate. And then a lot of it is, you were trained that way. So I think that playing in the Olympics is something an experience that actually evolves over time. It's the best way that I can explain it.
And that's amazing, the journey you took to get to that. And I'm totally honored that you represented our country and you did it well. So I'm going to go back to when you were 9 years old. do you remember your first actual seizure?
I don't know, because I don't know how long I was having seizures. I think I was probably having seizures for, I mean, who knows, you know, or activity. I remember specific experiences. You know, I remember reciting spelling words and not remembering what I was doing. I think an impactful experience I had was actually later than the age of 9, it must have been, but I remember being in a classroom, and I remember sitting on a desk, and there must have been an activity prior to that, and all of a sudden I was the only one in the classroom.
Oh,
and I had no idea where everyone had gone or where I was supposed to go, and I was just the only one there, and I was just sitting on the desk, and I didn't know where everyone else was, and I don't know how much time had passed, and a significant amount of time must have passed if everyone, including the teacher, had cleared the classroom and gone to somewhere else. And I left and I ran, and I think I ran to the cafeteria thinking, oh, it must have been lunch, but no one, you know, a different class was there. And I think ultimately I remember finding them at gym and getting in trouble for being late. But that was something that I remember being really scary. I remember getting up to do oral reports. And just really struggling through them. But other than that, I think when you're that age and there's so much growing and life going on, you only kind of know what you know. So while those are scary experiences, you don't really know that it's not necessarily a punishment, or that it's not happening to everyone else, or it's not explained to you for sure that you have this. I think that's where we've come so far, is that we're able to explain to our kids that you're taking this medicine to correct this thing that is, and this is what's happening in your brain, and they can see it. And I like things to be explained to me. How does my medicine work? Like, it's a sodium channel, you know, how is this one different? And we're able to explain to our kids and answer their questions and explain to their classrooms, this is what epilepsy is, and this is why these things happen, so that they understand at their level.
And I totally understand what you're saying along the medicine side. Really, it's about finding the right combination. And this is what medical staff really, especially neurologists and things like that, they have they try to get the best medicines they can. And sometimes it's hard to find that combination. I mean, with my brother, it's been a long time struggle, you know, even dealing with 1 milligram or a half a milligram, or, you know, doing different types of, you know, different types of medicine, liquid, pill, you know, because my brother has Lennox Gastaut Syndrome, which is a severe form of epilepsy. It's hard because my brother doesn't understand that concept of, you know, just crushing the medicines into like pretty much a powder and then putting orange juice in it, because he doesn't understand the concept of swallowing something like that. So, you know, there's a lot of different things that people just like, oh, well, that's just a seizure disorder. There's a whole little different aspect to it that nobody really understands sometimes. So I'm sure, you know, seeing different people with different types of seizure disorders. So, I mean, with what you had with used to call grand mal seizures, now it's tonic and clonic. Is that what it is?
Yeah, tonic clonics.
So that's a hard thing too, you know, and having drop seizures and stuff like that. People just don't, in the outside of the epilepsy community, don't understand what these different types of seizures are. I mean, you could be, I'm just going off my brother's experience, sitting watching a movie or something, and then all of a sudden blank, like nothing, and then starts into a seizure, a drop seizure, falling out of nowhere, and then just started having one. So, I mean, it's hard to see firsthand, and there's been a time where my brother has had a month straight of seizures. There's every hour. And that was when I would say the infancy of epilepsy and trying to find different sources. Like he had to go to Washington, D.C. to really get more information about this. So, I mean, with your experience, have you traveled to other states to see other ways that other epilepsy foundations help with this?
I think, well, I'm going to go back to something you said first, and that is, I really like what you said about it's not just a seizure disorder. There's a lot that goes with it that people don't understand. You have a seizure and the seizure isn't over, then I have a harder time articulating myself or speaking, and, you're tired, and it's beyond just being tired. I can't organize myself. And I think I tell a lot of families, okay, so I have very frequent tonic-clonics and you only have absence seizures, but your epilepsy is no less than mine. Because if you're a mother who has absence seizures every other week, but you can't drive, and you go into your doctor's office and they tell you can't drive, they think they're taking away your license, but they don't know what they're actually stealing from you. You just lost a lot of your life. You're driving, you can't drive your children. You lost a lot of your independence. And not just that, you're losing the opportunity to see them. Who's your middle schooler hanging out with that isn't actually coming over, or are they sitting by themselves? And those, short interactions with the teacher and the, backseat conversations, because you're not that person anymore. And at that stage, that's actually who they're looking to. That's actually your relationship is it's a selfish stage. They're looking to somebody to take them. So while you're only having absence seizures and not as frequently, epilepsy really stole a lot from you, and medications, like you said, can really, really have a significant impact, including in a way that I've experienced several times now. That's, you almost have to experience it to understand. It can make you beyond depressed, suicidal almost immediately, like a week and a half into a new medication and you're suicidal. Luckily I've been through it enough now that I can recognize that, and I can say there's something wrong. But you don't always understand what's going on, and you have to trade and say, well, my seizures are controlled, but I don't want to live. So I think it's really important to know about epilepsy is that not just because you see somebody in a wheelchair and you think, oh, their epilepsy is more severe than this person who just can't drive. And I don't think that's the case. I think everybody's is just different. Right. And you have different struggles. And then as far as going to different states, I think we're actually blessed in Boston with a lot of the major research is done, especially for Dravet, which is has a lot of similar characteristics of LGS, but it's genetic and strictly genetic. And all that major research is done in Cambridge at MIT. And I think that Epilepsy Foundation New England is one of the strongest affiliates. There are a lot of great affiliates out there. I know in Los Angeles, but as an athlete, I traveled a lot. And so I had to get, care all over the place. But I think the most consistent care I've always gotten has been in Boston specifically. I think the biggest change in my condition was made when I went on the ketogenic diet, and I did that at MGH. And so I think that there, and I got a lot of support at NYU, but I didn't seek them out. It just was, while I was traveling. But I think we're really lucky in Boston because we have so many hospitals that are so competitive with each other.
Absolutely.
And a lot of great research and teaching hospitals. It's the Harvard institution. Harvard has like 3 teaching hospitals out here. And so, but there are people that are great hospitals. I know in Ohio, in DC, Johns Hopkins is a great hospital. I know a lot of the doctors there. I know Ohio has some great hospitals. I know LA. I know a lot of the physicians in California. So there's great care in a lot of different places. And a lot of people do travel. I know Texas. So a lot of people do travel both for clinical trials, but also just because they feel like we're not finding an answer. And that's, what we think the best path for our family is right now. Or surgical procedures too. They feel like they're not offered and they want to try them somewhere else.
Right. And going back to, I'm kind of backtracking again, with the epilepsy awareness and really the, I don't want to say underground, but really like the stuff that people really, really don't see, such as, when an epileptic seizure happens, people don't know the basics of how to help somebody. And it's not like, giving mouth to mouth or doing stuff like that. It's more simplistic things like turning them on their side. Or I believe I talked to you a while back about the magnetic type of, yes, my brother has that as well. And it kind of calms it down a little bit. And, there's certain things like, clenching your teeth or, you bite your tongue by accident and start bleeding and, can't control your bowels and stuff. Like nobody understands that it's not just a seizure. There's more to it. Like I said, there's more to it. And I can't say enough that like it needs to be more awareness than just, it's just a simplistic seizure. It's very serious thing that there's a lot of stuff. I mean, my brother was in ICU twice, and I really don't want to go into detail what happened the second time. Recently, he's been in and out of hospitals from time to time with it. He wore the helmet back a long time ago when he was 4 years old. And, my father was kind of, I still believe that he's scarred because he was the first one to see his first seizure. So it's just, it's a very scary and very upsetting condition. So like I said, I think you hit the nail right on the head with New England being an unbelievable source of help, Children's Hospital, Brigham and Women's, MGH, all that stuff. So I think you're absolutely right. This is a great, mecca of hospitals that are willing to help everybody with this. And especially Children's Hospital, it's a big thing for me in my heart, where I started my like fundraiser that I'm having in June, where my main goal at first was to let first starting out families that are just experiencing it at a very early age for their children to, say that they're not alone. And I know you're in the same way, is like you want to help the families that are first going through it. And I mean, have you experienced helping or dealing with families that started out like that, like are starting out with?
Oh, of course, it's part of what we do. Yeah, that's part of what we do at the Epilepsy Foundation New England is, just newly diagnosed families, not only helping support them with, resources, but, those first few phone calls is just about connection and letting them know that, we're here and, I personally have gone through it, we've been through it, and connecting them with each other and doing groups and camps and even just, connecting them. I think people, once they go through it, they want to help and they want to be connected to other people. And so we have a fantastic community of people that have and do and are going through it. And, something I talk about a lot is there are times with epilepsy, there's a large number. It's a difficult message because you want to empower people that you can live typically, you can play sports, you don't necessarily have to stop. You're not, you don't have a, it's not a doom diagnosis. At the same time, you don't want people not to take care of themselves. You don't want people to, not take it seriously. And you also don't want to spread the message. You don't want people to be afraid of somebody with an epilepsy diagnosis, but you don't want to spread the message that it's not a difficult thing to deal with. So it's kind of hard. It's not straightforward, like maybe cancer. Cancer is a very specific diagnosis, very specific treatment plan, and with an end. And then, like the follow-up, sort of like, then what's next? And epilepsy is more of a journey. It's sort of, I found this med, it works, now it doesn't work. What can I do? Well, I can play sports and then I can't, or, and it's a spectrum. So, some people have, and I don't even think it's so much of a spectrum, because there are some people that have more difficulty with this thing. And some people have more difficulty with that thing, severe difficulty with that thing, but can do the other thing just fine and perfectly well. So it's really a difficult message. But I think that when you are healthy, sometimes you just want nothing to do with it, or you feel like, when I was first asked to be a spokesperson for the cause, I actually felt like I was kind of claiming a disability I didn't have, almost saying, hey, I'm an Olympian and I have epilepsy, as if I had overcome more than I had. I felt not genuine with it. And I had to get talked into, you'll be helpful to a lot of people. So I felt really uncomfortable. I didn't know down the road I was going to, struggle again, but, I became this spokesperson, and now I realize how important it is for people who maybe you just had infantile spasms, that you were able to treat and grow out of, and you're no longer medicated. But being a part of the community is really important, because those moms and dads that dealt with infantile spasms and now their child's 16 and living a healthy life, there's a whole community of people who are newly diagnosed with infantile spasms that want to see that 16-year-old. And so I think that it's really important to be a spokesperson and to advocate and to be a part of the community, no matter where you are in your journey. And you never know when you're going to fall back. I began my journey as a spokesperson, a completely healthy Olympic athlete. And now I'm talking to, now I receive a lot of services because there's a lot of things I can't do. I can't find correct medications. I'm having seizures. I'm having tonic-clonics. And that's not where I saw myself however many years ago. And I'm lucky to have the support of the community that I rejoined. So I think that being a part of a community is really important at every stage in the journey, from newly diagnosed to people who are just trying new medications, to maybe you're somebody who's completely controlled and you have financial struggle. All of a sudden you can't afford your medication. Being a part of the community means support. And the Epilepsy Foundation New England offers, financial support in emergency situations. So I just think that supporting one another and being a part of the community is important in awareness, and in, I think it's a fulfilling piece of people's lives as well.
And honestly, I think you're doing a fantastic job with that. And, it's not just about being an athlete. You're really, you really have I've been told that you have a very strict schedule. You're very busy in this organization. And I have nothing but respect for that. And, I'm my journey with this from the outside looking in. I mean, it's heartbreaking to see when people who haven't gone through this actually say to you, well, that, have kind of a ignorance of it. I don't want to say that in a very bad way. I want to say it in a different way. But, when this happens, like, oh, hey, like, cannabis is going to help your brother, like in different stuff like that. And it's like, if you only knew, my brother has such a severe form of epilepsy. It's not a curable thing. It's a thing that can sort of be controlled with medication, but it's not something that poof, there's going to be a medicine and he's all clear. And I don't know how I feel about the cannabis side of it. I've seen children, adults that it does help. And then there's another side of me that is like, well, it's something that may be not really helpful. I don't know enough research to see about it. So I just wanted to get your opinion about the cannabis side of trying to help with this epilepsy.
Well, I think that, marijuana derived medications, I think there's a bright future, and Epidiolex, Charlotte's Web, in controlled situations and in working with a medical health professional, have really done a lot for a lot of specific cases. But I think it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a medication. It's not a miracle. It's not a miracle. It's
Right.
a marijuana derived medication. And so just like penicillin is actually derived from mold, and also is an antibiotic that doesn't cure everything. Just like other medications that are derived from different things. I don't think anybody really knows how it works. It's the one of my medications I'm not really sure how it works. But there are a lot of different and new medications out on the market, specifically right now targeted towards Dravet and LGS. And hopefully they also make an impact. I think Epidiolex, which is the FDA approved form of cannabis, has made a impact on the LGS community, but that doesn't mean that it has, it's not without, it's dose related. It is one of the medications I take. And if I go too high, then I have more seizures. If I go too low, I have more seizures. So it has to be monitored by, and does it cure me? No. Does it help? Yeah, there are also other medications that help. So I think that I think that cannabis is one thing, or is it a marijuana derived medication right now? And that they're doing, it's really cool because like Greenwich Biosciences is the company I'm most familiar with. I really have a lot of respect for them. And one of the first things after Epidiolex, kind of hit the market, it was FDA approved. I said, okay, now what's next? Because it's not just one thing you do with CBD, there's more, and there's more research. And that's one of the things we advocate for on Capitol Hill is more funding towards both making it accessible, but also research, because if you can do one thing, you can do something else. And so do I think that there's potential? Yeah, it's a medicinal, leaf and property, and it's making an impact. But is it a cure-all for all patients? No. For some patients, it's made an impact and helped them stop their seizures. There's another medication, Fintepla, that has, stopped patients who have been having seizures for 30 years. But has it helped everybody? No.
Right. And that's my thing is, like I said to you, having a brother who has had a severe type of epilepsy like mine is not going to be cured just by a medication. There's sometimes not a cure. It's just a level of medication. Like you said, with one of your medications, it's if you go too high, then it might be a problem. If you go too low, there's a problem. But the balance is very important. And that is such a struggle for not only you or anybody else. It's a constant struggle to really balance all medications for this type of condition. So going on, I mean, with me, my whole goal was in all of this, because social media around the time I wanted to do something like this was, a cell phone call, and that was it. There wasn't, I think Facebook just got started. No, MySpace just got started. And there wasn't a really thing that you could branch out. Now it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Like, it's unbelievable. Then it just spreads like wildfire. So it's like it's very helpful to me, and I'm blessed to know that I'm not alone in this. To not only parents, people going through it, anything, like people are out there that aren't just you. There's other people out there who are willing to talk together and really help each other out. And it's amazing how the epilepsy community has came together now and branched out. I was there for the first epilepsy walk in New England down in the Esplanade. So I totally know all about it. And now I'm just blessed that I can use like tools like the internet and word of mouth to really help with this, and really like start a fundraiser and a raffle, which I'm trying to do. And I think it's just something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I finally got that chance. So, and it's amazing how people like you who are epilepsy advocates and raise epilepsy awareness. I think like I feel like you're a strong person to me. I'm honored to talk to you, and it's great to know that I can talk to somebody about this, because sometimes it's hard for somebody who doesn't know to talk about it. So I'm sure you've dealt with that yourself.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate people who are interested in sharing. You know, I think sometimes even just the word epilepsy can be hard to say, you know, especially if people don't know what it is, and it's kind of a weird word. I mean, you would be surprised the number of people that can't even get to our website because they misspell it despite having it as the diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I do think it can be hard to talk about, because I remember, this is several years ago,
Mm-hmm.
like several years ago, but I remember being in Washington, D.C. and with a bunch of young advocates and wondering privately, you know, we were talking to them about, you know, the strength they have to go to Washington, D.C. to talk about their story. And we were talking about, you know, that they can put this on their resume. You know, like you went to Washington, you talked to how many of your classmates have done something like this, have gone through this type of training. And I think inside my head, I was thinking, well, maybe you don't want to put it on your resume, because there is a level of discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
Of now you're disclosing that you have seizures, and what's the employer, you know? And so I remember just feeling like it's just so unfair that these kids overcame their battle, and they went through just, you know, a really expensive advanced training and elevator speeches, and they had, you know, they went and they got to talk to Congress people, and advanced training that most of their classmates didn't have. But yet even something they should really be proud of like that had to remain a secret, or something they really thought about before they shared.
Right.
So I think overcoming a public stigma in order for people, you know, newly diagnosed and young people to grow up in a safe place where it's okay to say, I have this mental condition, controlled or uncontrolled, but I want to push myself as far as I can, is a world that we want to continue to create, in addition to, you know, new medications, new treatments. And I watched a great movie called Crib Camp, and I really cried at some points where I saw, you know, people with physical disabilities just crawling up the stairs to get a 504 passed, and realizing how far we've come for people with disabilities in a short amount of time, and what they have done, you know, crawling up those stairs. And they did it so that I have the rights that I have, and we're comfortable on talking about it now. And so hopefully we can get to the point where, you know, younger people have not only advanced treatments, but are living in a world where people want to be educated, they want to help, and they're able to put on their resume, look, I did this awesome thing. And disclosure isn't a question. It's just something that I live with, but look at all the cool things I can do.
The amazing thing for me, and I'm sure you would appreciate it yourself, I work at a local high school here in Massachusetts, and they have a video production program for students. And these are exceptional students. They're not troublemakers. They're not anything like that. And there was two in particular that I said, you know, I want to talk about epilepsy a little bit. I don't know if you saw it on my Facebook or not, but these two kids were amazing. They asked me the questions, and they did all that for me. And these are high school students that no judgment, no anything. And, you know, I couldn't thank them enough. And, you know, they're called Code Blue. And because they're the Bulldogs and something with blue, I don't know. So with that, it was a total honor for these kids to do things like that. They really helped me out through this stuff. And it was an honor to be part of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm grateful to, you can let them know too, we're grateful to them, because the more people like that we have in our community, just both giving back to the community and sharing with the world, like yourself, as a sibling, and, you know, people who are like Code Blue, the more comfortable and the world's going to be for people with disabilities who actually have a lot to offer. And the more diverse and the more we'll be able to benefit from one another, I think.
And the hugest thing is, you know, when I did say to you about, you know, my brother being in hospitals, and a little bit where I'm older now, and my mother calls me and says, well, she never used to call me and say, oh, don't worry about it. She always just never told me until I called her and said my brother was in the hospital. And, you know, when my brother was, this was 2 times before this one, and he was really, really sick, and very close to something that I don't want to talk about because it made me teary. But you know, people don't understand that you're holding their hand in that room and you don't know what to do. You can't help because you don't know what to do. And that's a form of having no information about epilepsy. And it's tough for me to, you know, make people aware of that. And people need to know that this sometimes can be a case for people. This can be a struggle for people. And this is something that is very serious. And you know, during COVID, there was one point that he went in there, and it's like, that was the most dangerous thing for me because I can't be there. They gave an exception to my mother because she could be in there, and it's hard. And it's something that people need to be aware. And, you know, if I could advocate for this organization, I definitely would. And I know you do exceptionally well with it. And I appreciate it by you telling your story and helping people that really need that one little speech or anything like that. And it's such a great feeling to be talking to you about this, because it's like I'm talking to somebody who has dealt with the same things I kind of have without like me being, again, looking from the outside.
Yeah. It takes a village, though. You're right. And I do think you are advocating. You're definitely doing your part. We appreciated you, you know, posting pictures of the walk, and hopefully I told you about my walk story and how just by wearing the apparel and going for a walk as a group, we thought it was a virtual walk, and we're kind of finding a hard time to get excited about it and left feeling really good about it. And I think that by doing this, you are advocating and doing your piece. Everybody's role is different. You know, my role is full time, and everybody's role is different. And when you put your piece in, then you're part of the community. So we're really grateful.
I appreciate that. And, you know, that there is probably a time where I'll want to say, my other big goal was to, you know, either say, you know, have a Zoom call like this with me and you know, and talk to a family who is first starting out with this and really being like, hey, like, it's okay. Like, there's an advocacy that can help you. And I would love to talk to families who just want to hear that they're not alone, you know. So I know that's a fulfilling thing for you. And I'm sure at some point I would talk to somebody in the foundation that I could make that happen too. So my last thing is, what's the future holding for you for the foundation, and what is it that you want to keep going with and accomplish with this whole thing? And are you going to lace up the skates again?
What's the future hold for anybody during a pandemic? I mean, our whole, right. You know, everyone has, in business, everyone has like a strategic plan and then there's a pandemic and things. And so everything shifts, and taking the positive away, I think that we were able to connect a lot of people through virtual. And I'm kind of sorting through that right now. Like, what is the where does that fit in after the pandemic? And how interested and where will people be? I think that's something two things that I'm really passionate. I'm really passionate about support for everybody. I think it's really easy to focus on a specific audience of people, which are kind of late school age kids who are still small and cute. And it's easier to engage those families because those families are used to signing up for things. This year we started a 55 plus group that has been relatively successful. And then a men's group, and then serving audiences like, like a 30 to 55 and an 18 plus. I've been really successful with a young leaders network, which is kind of your high school, college age, because they weren't getting services because same thing, people are afraid of teenagers. And we were massively successful. So I think that growing in that direction, then I think we need to do a better job of serving people like pregnant women, infants, like real, things you carry around. Things you carry around in a bucket. And then also, I'm really passionate about severely affected. And we've been really, shockingly, we found the right supports, and we've been successful in growing that program as well. During the pandemic on Zoom, which is, I was really like, if they have a difficult time connecting in person, how are they going to benefit over Zoom? And we found just the right team of people to support. And it's called All Together now, because it's not specifically for, that's our target audience, but it's not specifically for any sort of minimum amount of disability. And of course, we want everybody to interact together, but that's our target audience are people that aren't typically included. And our summer camps are, started out in a place of a typical camp for people with epilepsy, where it's the ages of kids that go to camp. And we just started with our sailing camp is going to be in person, and we're going to have transportation for 55 plus, 12 55 plus patients, which is really cool. Seniors, and then also 30 to 55 and 18 plus. And specifically in that 55 plus, we have, some Alzheimer's and dementia, as well as our family camp is completely inclusive. The friend I walk with, her son has bilateral PMG and, nonverbal, CVI, which means he has a hard time visually, very severely disabled, doesn't do a ton of interacting. So we've really grown in the area, kids with feeding tubes. And so family camp is really very accommodating. So I'm really excited about that. And I want to continue to grow in that way, as well as language barriers and families of all types of backgrounds. I think epilepsy can be a white man's condition, not because it discriminates or only affects, but because I think other families, either culturally, financially, or just feel like there isn't any support for them. And then we have a diversity and inclusion committee, and they have we are just as a foundation, set up a hotline in Spanish, which is not all inclusive. There's Creole. You have to start somewhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yep. So that, and we think we tried to start a Spanish speaking group and realized that wasn't step one. That was step 5. So we went backwards and we started with just letting them know that there is support available somewhere. So that, and our My Friend MattieC training is also available in Spanish. And again, completely acknowledge Spanish is not the only second language, but there's a step 1. So I'm really excited about, that's been one of my goals since we started at Epilepsy Foundation New England was, and we've made a ton of mistakes. It was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to translate this flyer and I'm going to have this meeting. We're going to have a translator there. And we realized, oh, what if somebody called with questions? There's nobody here that speaks Spanish to answer the phone. So it's been a learning experience, but I'm really excited about where we're at, which isn't the final product. But I think that programmatically is where we're at.
Awesome. And I wish you nothing but luck with that and everything that's going to go on. And I will also continue to try to be part of the organization, just like you. You on a full scale spectrum, me on a little spectrum. But I am truly honored for you to even come and speak on my show about all this. And I'm glad to have talked about this. It's been something I've wanted to talk to outside of my small group. And I can't thank you enough for being on my show. And I love the jersey. It's super awesome.
Thanks. I don't put it on. I don't put it on frequently.
Well, then that's an even better honor for me. So, Chanda, thank you very much for coming on the show. And I will be probably joining with you again at some point. And I'd love for you to either come on the show or see what my raffle or fundraiser is going to do. Because again, it's going to go toward epilepsy. And ultimately, my goal is to get to that point where I get help from many different people. And I've been doing people have been so generous to me, and it hasn't even started yet. So
that's awesome.
My goal is to take a ride up to Lowell and, see Judy and possibly see you and, just feel accomplished that the fundraiser and raffle help. So I wish you nothing but the best and to stay healthy. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And I will talk to you later.
Okay, cool. And make sure your mom has my number, because I'm definitely can talk to her a little bit whenever she wants about just thoughts or concerns she has in transitioning care.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.